welcome back to another emission of our weekly show, Culture Shock. Here we are, the guests. Well, no, the hosts, please.
I'm Nathaniel Racine. I'm the faculty host.
And I'm Fernanda. I'm a student from Idiomas, Languages.
And Victor, I'm studying languages too, and today we have a very special guest. Please.
Hi, I am Antonia Paricio. I am a teacher here also in IPAEP.
So she's here.
Oh, okay.
No, she's here because today we'll remember a special day. Well, twice.
Yes.
Because 1 year ago we had an earthquake, and we also remember the one from 1985. So it's a sad, nostalgic day for us, not just like people from Puebla, but as Mexicans. It's an important date. And our guest here lived both of the earthquakes. Luck is not maybe in your favor.
No, I think I am because I'm here. And I was 18 years old when I was in Mexico City in 1985. And I was studying actually in the university. So I felt really identified with you, because in that moment I was driving to the university when the earthquake began. It was
Early, right?
It was
7:05.
7:05. So 7:05 in the morning, I was driving to my class, and actually, Ciudad Universitaria, where I was studying, is built on a very hard rock area. So I didn't feel it as it was. So I kept on my way. I arrived to my class, and life was the same in that area in the university. Later on, the radio began sending the messages about what was going on, because as you know, we didn't have cell phones, so we didn't know what was going on. After a while, my sister and my cousin came in a motorcycle to look for me, because they thought I was lost. They didn't know anything about me because I couldn't get in touch with my family. So it was a shock, an absolute shock, because of all the things that were happening around there. Okay, so.
Okay, yeah, and that's interesting to hear that things in the Ciudad Universitaria were very different than in the rest of Mexico City, and that's an important thing to remember, right? About just how how earthquakes move, and how a lot of it has to do with where you are in the country and all these sorts of things.
Yeah, it actually is different in specifically in the area Ciudad Universitaria, is because it's a volcanic rock area.
Okay.
So it was really different from the area on downtown or Zócalo, or because it was lake there, you know. So the materials on the surface are different. So that's why we felt it very different. Most of the buildings that collapsed were in the center, downtown, and in this area where I was having all my classes, and my life was different, except for my sister's school. My sister's school fell down, and 27 of the girls who were there and a teacher died. So it was quite shocking. My sister should have been there. Well, no, she shouldn't have, but she was getting there late, and that's why she's alive now. So many stories, many stories related to that.
I would imagine a lot of people have similar stories about being lucky to not be where they were supposed to be, or so to say. And you, of course, were here last year, but you weren't on campus.
No, I was not. I was not on campus. My son was in campus.
Okay.
Because he was studying here, and so he was in one of the buildings, and so it was shocking for me, because I was now a mom, but I could remember all the chaos, you know, and I was like feeling really stressed. But again, cell phones are now a blessing, because I could hear from him so fast and know that he was okay. I was at home. It was different from me, absolutely.
And how about, so you guys are obviously students. Victor has been in one of my classes. And what was it like for you guys last year? I have never been here during a major earthquake. I arrived in January, so there were a couple minor earthquakes, and I felt one last semester in the spring. but I've never experienced this, so I'm curious to listen and to learn more about this, and I'm sure our listeners are as well. What was your experience on campus last year?
Well, ever since I was a kid, everyone tells you that Mexico is in a zone where there are a lot of seismic activity. So you always know that there could be an earthquake, but I had only felt small minor earthquakes till that day. So it was like, oh, there's an earthquake, so I'm gonna stay here, and then nothing worse is going to happen. But last year, I was in Cook. I was against a window, so I felt that the building shook, and then everything started to jump. The computer, the blackboard, the whiteboard, the screen, everything was moving. So that was the very first experience I had an encounter with such a situation. So I didn't know what to do, and I evacuated the building because a friend did. Otherwise, I think I would have stayed there.
And were you? What floor were you?
I was
I'm
on
not familiar with the
second
Cook.
floor.
Okay.
I was in second
Okay,
floor.
so you weren't very high up, and
Yeah.
and so. And how about you?
Okay.
Fair.
I was in J building. Yeah. And I remember I hear someone saying there's an earthquake, and out of nowhere I just felt how the table was shaking in a very horrible way, and I just ran away. But something that makes me surprised, or I don't know, that maybe that day I was very scared that I cannot remember any sound. Like, there's a lot of people telling me always that they hear how the ground was cracking
Yeah.
and like that, but I don't remember any sounds. I don't remember voices. I don't remember steps. I don't remember any sound, and I don't know why. I really hate that thing.
Yeah.
I think something that is very different is that now you're ready. Because in 1985 we didn't have any previous preparation for that. It was absolutely a chaos, because it was something that, well, I remember that when I was younger I have felt other earthquakes, but nothing that serious. And we didn't have any practice. We had never thought about having all these collapses and all these people hurt, and I was thinking we didn't have a plan as a family to establish a certain point to be together or something. We never thought about that before 1985. So I think that's a major difference between that and the previous year, last year, because most of the people, even young children, you and many people who are younger than me, obviously, know what to do. And many of us have plans already. I personally have all my documents in a certain place or whatever. So we can say we know what to do, even though the panic or the situation is different or is difficult to be managed. We know, we have an idea about what to do. Something that I really, really remember and I really felt again in this earthquake is the people's feelings. We knew that we had to help in that moment, and it was so nice to me last year to see two generations which were really separate by time and really separate. Most of the students now in the university are our kids. So the two generations that might have been having problems joined together and organized themselves, and nothing happened. Well, nothing mattered to be together to work towards people. So that was I can feel goosebumps because I really felt that solidarity feeling again, which was I thought it was part of my youth, but not. It's people, it's Mexican people, and now youth millennials, which many people say don't care, they do care. That was really, really nice for me. My kids were helping the same way I was helping in that moment, and now we were together doing it. And all my students and all the people I knew trying to help somehow. It was really, really, well, apart from the really bad situation, horrible situation, that was really, really nice for us. Really nice.
Yeah, but it is amazing how they organized, because in a minute everybody was in the streets, at least working as traffic lights,
Yes.
helping with the traffic jam. Some other people were like, do you need to call your family? I help you. I give you my cell phone. They were like very, very nice.
And you had in 1985 you had some experience directly helping people as an emergency responder. Or
Yes,
can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I was studying biology at UNAM. So part of our training, because we used to go into the woods for a while,
Okay.
we used to have first response courses in order to save our own lives. So I was trained, yes. I was trained in that. So I joined a team who was preparing food, just food for the people who were actually in the places where the collapse happened. And then we were asked to go there and help people who were in crisis or with minor injuries. And that was really shocking. I think it was, I had never thought, before I had never thought about a war. But when I arrived there, it was not only the things that were collapsed, people crying, the screams, the smell. There are so many things that really, really take you into a different dimension, you know. You can't believe it's your country. You can't believe it's the place where you have been, the restaurants you have seen, the streets. So, and when you realize, for example, when I arrived to the place where I was sent to, I realized that that was the area where one of my friends was living. So I knew nothing about him. And so the first thing I thought it was, he's there. There's no choice.
Yeah.
But then you begin hearing about specific rescued people who were there for 2 weeks, you know. There were 15 babies in one of the hospitals who survived 15 days. They were taken out alive, and now they are celebrating their birthdays.
Yeah.
So, and when you hear that, you feel like there is something else. There's more than just life and death, you know, because many people were rescued from places which you never thought they could live in or survive. Okay. Yeah.
And now, and in speaking of preparation, and you mentioned how everybody works together, what do you get? How do you guys feel that you are prepared after? I mean, because one of the reasons why our show is starting late today, right, is because we had the simulacro and the whole university. We were out. We filed out, the alarms went off, we left the buildings, we went out into the streets, and now we're here back in the studio. But how do you feel as students? I mean, so you last year experienced an earthquake, and you said you never felt one like that before. You didn't really know exactly what to do. And how do you feel a year later as students, well, as human beings, really, as Mexicans?
Well, I think that we are maybe scared, or not scared like that, but aware of the situation. That we are living in a place where anything can happen at any moment. So, before the earthquake, I could hear the sound and ambulances and everything. I don't know, siren. The siren that was starting, and I would stay there. But after that situation, every now and then I hear the siren, I evacuate the building. No matter if it's an ambulance outside or if it's a car, I tend to be aware of the situation and leave the building. I don't know about you.
Yeah, the same. Like every time that I hear an alarm, I keep calm. I try to keep calm to see or analyze what is happening and then go away.
So that was the first. Thank you very much. That was the first segment, and we're going to a brief pause, and we're coming back.
What have you heard about Mexico these days? We are the best hosts. Every year, over 23 million tourists visit Mexico. And even better, 80% of them always come back. We're green. First place in natural protected areas. Jacques Cousteau named the Sea of Cortez the aquarium of the world. Classy. 2 of the 30 best restaurants in the world are in Mexico City. And it's all happening in Mexico as we speak. Find out for yourself.
¿Te gustaría crear o mejorar dispositivos para el servicio de seres vivos, tales como prótesis, órtesis e instrumental biomédico? ¿Qué estás esperando? La Escuela de Ingeniería Biónica de la UPAEP te invita a conocer cómo un ingeniero biónico domina y aplica las habilidades de elementos mecánicos, electrónicos y biológicos en las personas. Conoce nuestro plan de estudios conformado por 9 cuatrimestres con líneas terminales en diseño y manufactura de prótesis, emprendedores e instrumentación biomédica, con un campo de trabajo que va desde el sector salud, automotriz y aeroespacial. Para más información, comunícate al teléfono 229-9400, extensión 7146, o consulta la página www.upaep.mx. Ingeniería biónica, calidad de vida en tus manos. Hazlo tuyo. Hazlo UPAEP.
So we're back.
We are a little off with our timing today. We again because of the drill, the earthquake drill.
Yeah,
but
it lasted a lot more than what I expected.
And but that is also what we are talking about today: our earthquakes and our experiences with them. I luckily do not have any experience with a major earthquake.
But you have had experience with small.
With a smaller earthquake.
In the U.S. or only here in Mexico?
So in the U.S. I did actually experience an earthquake. It was very strange. It was during the summer, and I was in Philadelphia, which is on the East Coast on the Mid-Atlantic, which is not known for earthquakes. But it was, I want to say maybe have to be probably 6 years ago. But there was an earthquake further south, and we did feel it. And nobody had any idea what was going on, because that is something in Philadelphia on the East Coast, that region of our country, it's practically unheard of. You know, maybe a small one or something like that, but usually nothing that would raise any awareness or raise any sort of. But we felt it. I was in one of the taller buildings on campus. It was during an orientation activity for new instructors. And yeah, we were probably on the 10th or 11th floor in one of the meeting rooms, and we all sort of looked at each other and said, what's going on? And somebody said, I think that's an earthquake. And I said, okay, because I was one of the instructors who had taught the course before and was helping with the orientation. And we looked at each other and said, okay, well, we're done for today. Let's leave the building. We'll see you tomorrow. It was in the afternoon, but it was a very strange experience. But again, not common at all, and we weren't prepared for anything like that. And there was no real damage in our area. I think closer elsewhere on the coast there may have been. It may have felt stronger. But as most people know, I mean, in the United States, if you're thinking about earthquakes, you're thinking about California.
Yes.
Right, in the San Andreas Fault, right, which is one of the same fault lines that we share with Mexico, I believe. Do you guys want to talk a little bit more about fault lines and these things? I don't know too much about them, but Mexico sits on top of the intersection of
three different plates. And also, I remember about the 85. One teacher once told me that it was really strong and damaging because there was an earthquake. And the wave went to Mexico City, and then it bounced against another earthquake. So the wave hit again Mexico City. So there were two different waves. Well, it was the same one, but it bounced. So at a certain moment, the city received two different movements.
Yeah, actually, you could feel it because one was like a jumping situation. You could feel your under your feet like jumping, but on the other hand, after that there was a big push like losing your feet just because it was a big push, and then balancing and moving and nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, it was kind of mixed. So yeah, I think that was the hardest part. Also, the buildings were not really prepared, even though there were rulemates. I think most of the
Well, it's
buildings,
Mexico.
yeah, you know,
Unfortunately, it's Mexico.
yeah. So it was the buildings were not properly built to be able to have that, you know, that kind of strength. And I was thinking about what you were saying. We never thought we could have an earthquake back in Philadelphia, but I think when you are in an earthquake, that's the biggest issue. Your mind cannot understand what's going on. You cannot get it, you know, and you're feeling some things that you have never felt, and that maybe you have felt some others, but all of them are different.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest part is going back to your daily life, because life is not the same anymore. After you know that many people have died and many people have suffered so much, or maybe you yourself, you know. I remember last year I was here, and I never thought about PTS until I was really back to Mexico. The following week I had to go to Mexico, and I was so scared. And I was thinking, oh my God, I was living here in Mexico for 30 years, so why are you so scared? Well, it was maybe that, again, my mind was not still going back to the normal activities when this shock was again there, you know? So it's, I think that's one of the hardest part. Many people don't think on the consequence, the emotional and psychological effects on that, but it's a reality. I know that it's a reality. For some people, well, I consider myself somebody who can manage it, but many people can't. Many people have real. My sister is one of them. My sister feels this, and she becomes hysterical. Yeah, she cannot control herself. She begins crying, and she keeps this crisis for 2 or 3 days. So it's something that I think should be considered in order to be aware of the people who have had these bad experiences before.
Yeah, the human impact
Yes.
of these. I mean, the television shows us, you know, the fires, and we know that tsunamis and landslides and things like that, and we see the human impact on television as well, but that it's not in the moment, that it lasts, that it and that it lasts a very long time.
Yes.
Like you said.
Yeah, also you're really sensitive at that moment. I also remember that last year it was not the first earthquake Mexico felt last year. There was another one 1 week before.
Yes, that's
was
true.
the 8th. We didn't feel it that big a deal here in Puebla or in Mexico City, but Guerrero and Oaxaca, it was an 8 point something Richter scale. So I cannot imagine what they felt having this first earthquake, and then 10 days later have another one. So yeah, you're sensitive and you receive another.
Yeah, absolutely. In 1985, there was this one on 19th, but on the 20th, in the late afternoon at 7:30 maybe, but in the afternoon, there was another one, which was really hard too. It was 5 point something. And I can say that I felt that more horrible than the previous one, because I knew what had happened. I think it was that was the important thing, that before that, in the first earthquake, I didn't know what could happen with the buildings and whatever. And then after you have heard, after you have suffered, you have been there, I was at home, but I can say that I felt that so bad, so shocking. And even though I was trained in a way to respond properly, I couldn't really do what I had to in the second one. So yeah, what you are saying is really important. People who had suffered one and then
Having
2
another
days,
one.
yes, in a very short time. Okay, it's just
Yeah, and I remember when I was here in the spring, so I obviously wasn't here last September, but when was the one in February? I think it was on a Friday. It was after class, and I was back in my apartment, and I felt something, and I I said, oh. Oh, then, and it took a couple seconds. I said, oh, this is an earthquake.
That's true.
And I did exactly what you're not supposed to do, but you hear about, like, I went and stood in a doorway, right? Because, you know, in Mexico, where in a lot of doors, they lock on both sides. And I had locked my door from the inside, and my keys, I was in the living room, and my keys were in the kitchen. And so, and my door was locked. And so I went to the kitchen door, and I stood in the doorway, right? Which you hear is, oh, a doorway is the strongest structurally, but is not necessarily true. And there are a lot of things that, right, maybe if it's a certain type of building, a certain type of structure, it might be. But chances are it's not. You know, but these are sort of the myths that you hear and that you believe to be true, and then, you know, and I told somebody that I did that, and they said, oh no, don't do that. And don't lock your door.
Yeah.
Unless maybe when you go to sleep, but otherwise, you know, if you're at home and it's daytime, you don't need to lock your door from the inside.
Yes, true.
Things like that.
Yeah, that's something that it could be interesting to think about also. People who are not from Mexico are really, well, I can't imagine actually how they feel the first earthquake here in Mexico, because we are used to somehow, you know, we know that it could happen, we know, we have felt it, we have survived it, but people who come from another place, I think it could be so amazingly shocking. I have a friend, another teacher here, is a Cuban, and she said that in that last year, she was so terrified that she just stood on the door and she couldn't move. And somebody who was next to her tried to move her, but she couldn't.
Yeah, she froze.
Yes, she froze, absolutely. Because she thought that could never, ever happen to her, you know. So that's something, that's a different feeling from the, let's say, Mexican feeling, you know.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have a Taiwanese friend, and in the earthquake in February, we were in my house, and in Taiwan, there are a lot of earthquakes. And when the earthquake started, my first feeling was going out of the house, and her first feeling was to stay in the house. And I was like, no, go out. But she was like, no, if you go out, it's more dangerous. And I was like, no, you're not in Taiwan. Buildings are not the same.
Yes.
So yeah, they are completely different.
Yeah, a lot of things. So I remember, so I'm here as a becario this semester, and during our orientation, we had a talk about this, and a gentleman came and told us, you know, safety concerns and how to deal with these things. And a lot of it, like you said, I mean, a lot of it has to do with the buildings, right? The buildings here aren't like in Taiwan or these different things. And he said, you know, you educate yourself on the type of building that you're in, right? Because some buildings, he said, you know, if you're on an upper floor, go to the roof.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily true for all buildings, because the type of structure and the way an earthquake might affect it, right? So to go up to you don't know. So educate yourself on the type of building that you're in and the type of action that you should take in these sorts of situations, right? I mean, generally, in Mexico, the advice is to leave the building.
Yes.
But if you're on a 10-story building,
Yeah.
and you're on the 10th floor, but also educate yourself, the types of buildings that you're in on a daily basis, you know, learn about them, and if there is information, get that information and be prepared, right? I mean, you might freeze, but hopefully you will become unfrozen.
Yeah, be sure.
And then know what to do, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to be sure which is the best route to get out of there. Just when you go to the cinema or whatever, just be aware on the important safety rules.
Okay, so what about some of these numbers? Just before we go to another break. So what do some of these numbers mean? Right, the earthquake of 1985 was a magnitude of an 8, and of the earthquake last year was a 7.1. We have some information on how, but it's not the Richter scale. The Richter scale isn't used anymore, or the numbers are used.
Okay, I just read that the Richter scale is not used.
Well, it's not updated.
Yeah,
That's the thing, but
something
we're
like
still
that.
using it because it's really common.
Okay.
And also, it has a lot of flaws.
Okay.
So that's why they're proposing another scale.
Okay.
But obviously, trying to change something like
Right.
measurement
Okay.
thing, it's difficult.
Okay.
So
So
yeah.
these numbers are on the Richter
Yeah,
scale,
they're on
and
the
the
Richter
magnitude
scale.
according to the Richter scale, but the Richter scale is old. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
old and it needs to
Okay.
be updated. Also, I once heard that the Richter scale is a 10-to-1 scale.
Okay.
So if it's 5 and then you have a 6
Mhm.
earthquake, it doesn't mean that it's only one time bigger. It means that it's 10 times stronger than the
Yes.
previous
Okay.
one.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. And these are measured by seismographs, right? Which is, I think these are fascinating. You see the
The thing moving.
the paper and the instrument. Right, the base is fixed, and the instrument keeping track is not fixed to the ground, so it remains
Yes.
firm. And then if the ground is moving, then the base is moving, and that's how it measures it. These things are. I don't know too much about them, but I'm learning more now that I've been in Mexico.
I've got a funny story about it, but we're gonna talk about it next
Later.
next segment.
The next segment.
Yeah,
Okay, so
right.
we are coming up on a break then. And we will also be hearing from our Vox Populi. And
Yeah.
okay, we see the booth, and here we go. There.
What have you heard about Mexico these days? We are the best hosts. Every year, over 23 million tourists visit Mexico, and even better, 80% of them always come back. We're green, first place in natural protected areas. Jacques Cousteau named the Sea of Cortez the aquarium of the world. Classy, 2 of the 30 best restaurants in the world are in Mexico City. And it's all happening in Mexico as we speak. Find out for yourself.
¿Te gustaría crear o mejorar dispositivos para el servicio de seres vivos, tales como prótesis, órtesis e instrumental biomédico? ¿Qué estás esperando? La Escuela de Ingeniería Biónica de la UPAEP te invita a conocer cómo un ingeniero biónico domina y aplica las habilidades de elementos mecánicos, electrónicos y biológicos en las personas. Conoce nuestro plan de estudios conformado por 9 cuatrimestres con líneas terminales en diseño y manufactura de prótesis, emprendedores e instrumentación biomédica, con un campo de trabajo que va desde el sector salud, automotriz y aeroespacial. Para más información, comunícate al teléfono 229-9400, extensión 7146, o consulta la página www.upaep.mx. Ingeniería biónica, calidad de vida en tus manos. Hazlo tuyo. Hazlo UPAEP.
So we are back, and we have, well, there's this story about the seismograph. My mom was taking her students to a museum, and they were on the maybe 4th floor, something like that. So they had the seismographs, and then one girl touched it, and all her friends told her, "No, you shouldn't do it because there's going to be an earthquake." And she said, "No, I'm just touching it. There's nothing is going to happen." Then they moved to the next room, and they had an earthquake.
So, how old were these students?
They were from 3rd semester of university, more or less.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can imagine what they told her.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
So, about security concerns, and what are your recommendations when you feel an earthquake? What?
Well, first of all, keep calm. I know that it's like a cliche, but keep calm.
Yeah.
Keep calm because the worst thing you can do is panic. Your brain doesn't work properly. You can make wrong decisions, and you can hurt yourself and other people. So try your best to be calm and follow the instructions. I think the recommendations should be before the earthquake. Be prepared. Check which are the routes, which are the best things to do, what the conditions of the buildings are, which is better to go up or to go down. Follow the instructions of the people who are prepared for that. I think that the drills are perfect, are great. Before the drills, we actually used to shout and run and push and whatever. And after the drills, I think people is better prepared just to know what they have to do. Something that I really recommend is when you are in a mall or maybe at the cinema or whatever, or restaurant even, be sure that you know how to evacuate properly. It's not being afraid all the time, but it's just to be prepared. And I would really recommend as a person, but as also as a mom, to take a first response course, because that way you know what to do and you know how to take care of yourself and your bloods. So that would be also good. And something that we do have is this small backpack with the most important documents, a flashlight, some water and whatever. Many people say, "Oh, come on, you're just like paranoid," but it's not. I have lived earthquakes and also a flood in Tabasco, and I know how important it is to be ready. So those would be my best recommendations.
Yeah, that's one of the, you put together a list, Fer, of preparedness recommendations, and that's one of them on there is a supply kit and a preparedness kit. And it says the same thing with food and water and a flashlight.
Maybe a radio?
A radio, maybe some medication that you need, right? Documents, important documents, batteries, right? Know where your charging devices are, right? Phones. So your phones, we're very lucky that we have these phones, but if your phone battery dies, then you are, then it's not, then it's a paperweight, right? But what are some of the other things that for preparedness that we've got here?
So one could be secure items such as television and objects that hang on the walls, because if there's an earthquake, they can fall down and they can be a completely disaster because they can hit you in the face, in the head, whatever.
And also breakables, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, when you're in your decor, right, you want your house to look nice, but if it's something that's glass and could shatter, right, and if you're trying to leave and you don't want broken glass everywhere, but put breakable things on lower down, don't put them way up high.
That's something true. Something that happened in 1985 is many people used to have lots of crystal things, beautiful, amazing, china and whatever, and they used to decorate with lots of them. But during the earthquake, that was something really, really, really bad. Well, they lost, of course, a lot of money, but also many people got hurt because of that. Yeah, so that's something you have to consider when you're decorating.
Yeah, last year with the first one, the one that was September 8th, I think, it was almost midnight, so my dad was asleep. I was talking with my mom, and she told me, "Stop moving the bed." No, it's not me. Then tell your dog not to move the bed. It's not me. Then we realized that there was an earthquake, so she got up and she went to get my dad. My dad obviously was asleep, so he was listening to some bells, and he didn't know what was happening because what are the bells? What are the bells? There were our glasses downstairs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously we have them hanging, but we need to know that they're pushed way back so they don't fall.
Yeah.
Actually, having these kind of things like Chinese decoration that sound when they move, I think it's a very good idea. Actually, I have one in my house, in the middle of the house, because that way they are so sensitive that they begin like moving a little bit, and then we begin, oh my God, something is going on.
Like a wind chime or something, but hang it indoors.
Yeah, I think it would be.
Yeah.
It could be useful for many people, mostly for the students, the young students who are sleeping. Well, I think they get into a coma. They don't sleep. So they
University.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I think it could be also a good idea to have something that could make sound for you in case of an earthquake.
Yeah, in my room I have medals on the wall, so they start banging each other.
Very good. Yeah, that's a good idea too. Yeah.
Okay, another suggestion in here is, as Tony said at the beginning, have an emergency plan with your family. Because what happens when there's an earthquake, and thanks God we have cell phones, but remember that last time there was this I don't know how to say, saturación of the line. So it was
there were saturation.
Yeah.
I guess how would you say that in English? It would be the phone lines were over.
Yeah, they were dead because
Yeah.
everyone was trying to
Everybody trying
phone
to.
their family.
Yeah, so it's better if you know where you're going to meet or how you have to act. And even though it sounds a little bit ridiculous, maybe having a real with your family can work. See?
A drill.
A drill.
Simulacro.
Drill.
Yeah, a drill.
Simulacro is
Eso.
drill.
Simulacro.
Drill.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, because it's if we don't have this way to communicate or another way to communicate, it's important to know that everybody is going to get to a certain
same
place.
place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somehow, maybe it's gonna take a long time, but if you are okay, you're going there, and you're going to meet all your family there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also know what's around, right? That was one thing I learned, and again, not being from Mexico, that I also learned last semester, was that know what's around you. If there are a lot of power lines, that's not a good place to stand.
Yes.
So come up with not only to have that plan, but to know, where is your meeting point? Is it far enough away from the buildings, but also electrical lines and that sort of thing.
I think it's also important to try to be nice to other people. No, not all the people react the same way.
Yeah.
Some people are going to be really, really shocked, and they might not know what to do. They might not know where to go, etc. So I think that's also part of. Well, I felt it in 1985, and I felt it again in every bad situation I have lived. People are really nice to other people, but let's try not to be angry with other people, not to be let's have nice attitude. Some people are going to get hysterical, and we have to comfort them somehow.
Even though, like the simulacro, the drill today, right?
The drill,
I mean, we've all practiced this, but when it actually happens,
Yes.
you don't know how you or other people will react.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly, and that's not just about evacuate the building. Last year, my mom was a high school teacher, so she told me that, this high school during the day, it's an elementary school and also a junior high. So as soon as the earthquake finished, the school authorities decided to lock everyone inside. So inside the school,
Okay.
Not in the buildings.
Okay.
Now inside the school, so they were in the yard, kids were in the yard, and they were playing and everything, and all parents wanted to go inside, but obviously the police and the ones that are in charge of the entrances, the authorities, they didn't want everyone to go inside, because what's going to happen? Who's going to take who? What if I have a missing
Yes.
child? So
Oh,
that's
yes.
also
That's
an
true.
important thing. So they decided to lock everyone inside, and one by one, even if it took all day long,
Yes.
to release the kids. Yeah, because if they had a missing child,
Yes.
Right.
yeah, that's another thing. Not just evacuate the buildings, but with schools, that's an important thing too.
Yeah, lots of
Hospitals
things.
also.
Yeah.
What's happening there?
Yeah, that's something important to consider, that maybe you want the things to be faster or to be, I don't know, easier, but they have to be taking care also about security. Yes, that's true.
And let people do their jobs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing. Obviously, parents were afraid and they were scared. They were angry because they couldn't see their kids, but that's because of a reason. That's
Yes.
not just
Yeah.
because they didn't want to gather the family.
I know. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so we need to respect the decisions that they make, because they're for a reason.
And usually people in that situation have been trained, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody on campus here who is I don't know what their title is, but
They have the best.
different faculty and different administrators and different security personnel. They have those vests, and they're there to coordinate the evacuation and all that sort of thing.
And following the rules is a warranty that everybody's going to be okay. So that's the best thing to do, to trust on them, as you said, to respect their instructions and to follow them. So that's something, not thinking about myself only. I have to think about myself, but also about the rest of the community. I think rails are very, very good for UPAEP, and they are really, really well coordinated, because they are improving every time. So that's something good too.
And so we are up on our last break. We do have upcoming is we will send you out with the Vox Populi with reactions and comments from students around campus about their experience in the earthquakes done by our Vox Populi interviewers, right? Demi and Alicia. And well, it's a serious topic, but it is. I'm learning more as a non-Mexican about how these things are.
And always talking about that is good for everyone.
Yes.
Sharing experiences and having different reactions in different situations is good to learn.
Yeah,
and
you
to
learn
grow.
from the experience from other people.
I know. That's really good.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being here today. Thank you to our guest, Antonia, and our student hosts. Thanks for... I'm learning a lot.
Thank you so
and
much.
thank you for sharing, and thank you to our listeners. I'm Nathaniel. I'm the faculty host.
I'm Fernanda.
I'm Victor.
I'm Tony.
Okay, thanks very much, and we will see you next week on Radio Culture Shock.
Thanks.
¿Te gustaría crear o mejorar dispositivos para el servicio de seres vivos, tales como prótesis, órtesis e instrumental biomédico? ¿Qué estás esperando? La Escuela de Ingeniería Biónica de la UPAEP te invita a conocer cómo un ingeniero biónico domina y aplica las habilidades de elementos mecánicos, electrónicos y biológicos en las personas. Conoce nuestro plan de estudios conformado por 9 cuatrimestres con líneas terminales en diseño y manufactura de prótesis, emprendedores e instrumentación biomédica, con un campo de trabajo que va desde el sector salud, automotriz y aeroespacial. Para más información, comunícate al teléfono 229-9400, extensión 7146, o consulta la página www.upaep.mx. Ingeniería biónica, calidad de vida en tus manos. Haz lo tuyo. Hazlo UPAEP.
Miércoles a todos nuestros radioescuchas de Culture Shock. Hoy vamos a estar preguntando a los estudiantes de aquí de UPAEP qué es lo que saben sobre el terremoto del 85 y cómo reaccionar ante un terremoto. Vamos a ver qué nos dicen. Bueno, primero nos gustaría saber qué conoces sobre el terremoto del 85. Bonito miércoles a todos nuestros radioescuchas de Culture Shock. Hoy vamos a estar preguntando a los estudiantes de aquí de UPAEP qué es lo que saben sobre el terremoto del 85 y cómo reaccionar ante un terremoto. Vamos a ver qué nos dicen. Bueno, primero nos gustaría saber qué conoces sobre el terremoto del 85.
Pues que fue hasta hace menos de un año, uno de los terremotos más devastadores que ha azotado México, de magnitud 8.1.
¿Y en dónde estabas tú en el terremoto del año pasado?
En el terremoto del año pasado me encontraba yo en la explanada de la preparatoria en la que estudiaba yo. Estaba en un evento que había hecho la escuela de una semana de campaña de salud. Yo estaba con el club de astronomía, estábamos con un telescopio fuera. Cuando lo estábamos calibrando precisamente hacia la montaña La Malinche, cuando de momento nos empiezan a decir, oye, está temblando. Y pues en ese momento me enderezo, estaba yo en la mira del telescopio. Y es ahí cuando empieza el sismo y pues obviamente todo el mundo corrió a accionar la alarma sísmica.
¿Nos podrías dar unos consejos de cómo actuar ante una situación de esta?
Claro que sí, pues primero que nada mantener la calma, porque vaya, como no es muy común que nosotros vivamos sismos, terremotos, llega a ser que nos llegamos a bloquear y llegamos a entrar en pánico porque es algo nuevo. Y pues lo primero es conservar la calma, y en segunda, en caso de que no haya personal que en el área en la cual indique rutas de evacuación, el cual indique procedimientos, pues hacerlo por uno mismo, ¿no? Antes de, pues, ubicar cada vez que entra uno a los edificios, ruta de evacuaciones, salidas de emergencia, extintores, equipo. Si se sabe utilizar y se sabe todos estos protocolos, pues ayudar. Y si no se sabe, nada más obedecer las indicaciones que nos den los que sí saben. Conservar la calma y posteriormente no arriesgarse a entrar a las estructuras, no entrar a edificios. ¿Por qué? Porque normalmente es un error muy común. Que termine el sismo y dicen, voy por mis cosas. Y entonces a la hora de que van por las cosas, puede ser que el edificio se haya fracturado, puede ser que haya sufrido algún daño, y luego viene lo que es la réplica. Y pues bueno, ya con el daño y la réplica, aunque no sea ya de tan alta magnitud, llegan a colapsar. Entonces, pues sí, estar atentos a que lleguen las autoridades, a que valoren el edificio, el área. Si creen que es prudente, pues entrar, y si no, pues aguantarse un poquito.
Nos gustaría saber qué sabes sobre el terremoto del 85.
Pues sé que, bueno, yo estudio mercadotecnia y entonces fue como un parteaguas para las empresas de, por ejemplo, Bonafont, que ahí se empezó a usar como el agua embotellada, porque obviamente se quedaron como sin agua y fue que empezó como ese tipo de distribución de agua embotellada.
¿Y tú en dónde estabas cuando fue el terremoto del año pasado?
Estaba en Tlalpan, en la Ciudad de México, ahí justo como a 500 metros de donde se cayó la escuela de Repsol.
¿Y nos darías un consejo de cómo reaccionar ante un terremoto?
Pues obviamente, como dicen todos, mantener la calma y tratar de evacuar. Se supone que las alarmas sísmicas son para que suenen antes y puedas evacuar, porque cuando está como el terremoto, pues con el peso de las personas se agrietan las escaleras, entonces no es como buena opción. Pero pues sí, al momento de escuchar la alerta sísmica, pues desalojar de inmediato y pues sí, o sea, como buscar que tus familiares estén bien.
Bueno, nos gustaría saber qué conoces sobre el terremoto del 85.
Pues sé que fue un evento muy fuerte que afectó muchísimo a nuestro país, sobre todo a la Ciudad de México. Zonas como la Roma, el centro, Tlatelolco, etcétera, que pues al mismo tiempo, además de que nos afectó muchísimo, pues también nos sirvió como para unirnos como país, ¿no? Y apoyar.
¿Y algún consejo que nos quieras dar para no tener que vivir esa situación tan trágicamente?
Pues lo que todo el mundo dice que sí es cierto, mantener la calma primero. Y dos, o sea, por favor, buen plan, no hagan bromas. O sea, porque ese día me tocó que había chavos que estaban así de, no inventes, qué chistoso, se siente bien padre. O sea, padre como por qué, si hay gente que literalmente se quedó sin nada, ¿sabes? Entonces, pues esas dos cosas, mantener la calma, tratar de tener una actitud acorde a la situación y no estar jugando con algo de esa, o sea, no sé, algo tan serio, vaya.
¿Sí conoces algo sobre el terremoto del 85?
Sí, mira, creo que es poco lo que conozco, pero realmente creo que es relevante. El terremoto de 1985 fue una verdadera tragedia. Resultaron muchas personas heridas, varios muertos, ¿no? Creo que es algo que un suceso que marcó la historia del país, ¿no? Y entonces como que desde ahí tenemos ese miedo, ¿no? A que nos vuelva a pasar. Desafortunadamente, precisamente hace un año nos pasó algo similar, un poquito más leve, pero pues creo que no deja de ser importante, ¿no?
¿Y tú en dónde estabas cuando nos tocó el del año pasado?
Estaba en mi casa, estaba trabajando con mis padres, y entonces de pronto sentí una sensación media extraña, ¿no? Que todo se empezó a mover, muchos ruidos medios fuertes. Entonces entré un poquito en pánico porque precisamente no había sentido un temblor de esa magnitud, ¿no? Entonces me espanté un poquito, pero traté de mantener la calma.
¿Y un consejo que nos darías ante esta situación?
Pues bien, pues sí, precisamente mantener la calma, ¿no? Porque es importante. A veces entramos mucho en pánico, el miedo nos invade y no sabemos qué hacer. Quisiéramos correr o no sé, buscar alternativas, pero creo que a veces en lugar de hacer algo propio para beneficiar a la situación, la entorpecemos más, ¿no? Entonces creo que lo más importante es mantener la calma y seguir las instrucciones de las personas que están al mando, ¿no? Que están como, que son mayores y que saben más, que tienen más experiencia de lo que hay que hacer, ¿no?
Bueno, nos gustaría saber en dónde estabas en el terremoto del año pasado.
Bueno, estaba en el edificio A, estaba tomando clases y pues de repente empezó a temblar, obviamente. Y pues todos nos espantamos y salimos rápido, de una forma bien. Entonces un consejo que les puedo dar es actuar de forma rápida, pero al mismo tiempo de una forma serena, para que todos nos apoyemos y no haya ningún percance.
Ok, muchísimas gracias.